This video is for the person who feels stuck. If you wake up every day doing the same things, feeling invisible, questioning your future, this story is for you. This is not just a motivational video. This is the story of a man who refused to stay ordinary and how his small decisions completely changed his life. If you feel like your life should be more than this, watch until the end. In this video, you will hear a life-changing story. A story about fear, discipline, failure, and transformation. This is not about luck or talent. It's about how ordinary people become extraordinary by changing what they do every single day. By the end of this video, you will understand why most people stay stuck and how you can break out of that cycle starting today. Now, listen carefully, because this story might sound like fiction, but it feels exactly like real life. There was a time when Ethan lived a life so quiet that no one noticed him, not because he wanted to be invisible, but because life had taught him to stay small. He woke up every morning before the sun, not with excitement, but with heaviness in his chest. The alarm rang, he stared at the ceiling. Same room, same walls, same thoughts. Another day of surviving, not living. Ethan was 27 years old and worked in a small office doing work nobody respected and nobody remembered. He wasn't bad at his job, he was invisible at it. People talked over him, ignored his ideas, passed him by. And slowly, without realizing it, Ethan began to believe that this was all he deserved. At night, when the world was quiet, he sat by the window and watched the city lights. Each light felt like a life moving forward, and he asked himself the same question again and again. Is this really it? He had dreams once, big ones. He wanted to become someone who mattered, someone who spoke with confidence, someone whose words made people listen. But dreams are fragile when life keeps stepping on them. So Ethan buried his, until one night changed everything. That night, Ethan received a message from an old friend, a simple message. Do you remember who you wanted to be? Ethan stared at the screen for a long time. He didn't reply, because the answer scared him. That question opened something inside him that had been sleeping for years. Memories came rushing back, the younger version of himself, curious, hungry, fearless. And suddenly, the silence of his life became unbearable. The next morning, Ethan did something different. He didn't reach for his phone. He didn't scroll. He didn't rush. He sat on the edge of his bed and made a decision. I will not stay ordinary. Not today, not anymore. But deciding is easy. Changing is painful. That same day at work, Ethan tried to speak up in a meeting. His voice shook. Words came out wrong. Some people smiled politely, others ignored him. Embarrassment burned his face. The old Ethan wanted to disappear, but something new whispered inside him. Stay. So he stayed. That evening, instead of going home and numbing his mind with distractions, Ethan opened his laptop and searched one thing: how to rebuild your life from zero. He didn't know where to start. He only knew one thing. He was tired of being silent in his own life. Ethan started with discipline, small discipline. He woke up earlier, read 10 pages daily, practiced speaking English out loud alone in his room. At first, he hated his voice, he hated his accent, he hated how stupid he felt, but he kept going, because pain with purpose feels different. Weeks passed. Something inside him shifted. He stood straighter, he listened more carefully, he spoke slower, clearer. People didn't notice immediately, and that was okay, because this change wasn't for them, it was for him. One evening, Ethan was asked to present a short report at work, just 5 minutes. 5 minutes that terrified him. The old fear returned. His mind screamed excuses. You're not ready. You'll fail. You'll embarrass yourself. But Ethan remembered something he had written in his notebook. Ordinary people wait to feel ready. Extraordinary people act while scared. So he stood up. His hands trembled, his heart raced. But he spoke. Not perfectly, but honestly. When he finished, the room was quiet. Then someone nodded. Another person asked a question. For the first time, people were listening. That night, Ethan didn't celebrate. He didn't feel proud. He felt hungry. Because once you taste progress, comfort becomes uncomfortable. But life doesn't reward growth without resistance. Soon, problems came. More responsibility at work, more pressure, more expectations. Ethan felt stretched thin. Some nights he wanted to quit, to return to his old, quiet life, no risk, no pain. But instead of quitting, he doubled down. He studied at night, worked during the day, failed, learned, adjusted. He stopped complaining because he realized something powerful. Complaints don't change lives. Actions do. Months later, an opportunity appeared, a position that required strong communication, leadership, confidence. The old Ethan wouldn't even apply. This time he did. The interview was brutal. Questions came fast. Doubt tried to creep in. But Ethan answered anyway, not as someone perfect, but as someone prepared. When he walked out, he didn't know if he got the job, but he knew something else. He was no longer ordinary, and that scared him, because now there was no going back. Ethan's life began to change, but not in the way people imagine success. There were no celebrations, no applause, no one noticed his effort. Weeks passed, then months. Every morning, Ethan woke up earlier than everyone else. He studied before work, worked in silence, returned home exhausted. Some days he felt strong, other days doubt whispered in his mind. Why am I doing this? What if nothing changes? What if I'm wasting my time? One night, after a long day, Ethan sat alone in his small room. Bills on the table, a phone with no messages, a mirror reflecting a tired face. For the first time in months, he felt the urge to quit. He thought about all the people who chose comfort instead of struggle. They were resting, they were relaxed, they weren't tired like him. And for a moment, quitting felt peaceful. But then Ethan asked himself a dangerous question. What happens if I stop? He imagined his future if he quit. The same mornings, the same job, the same regret. That fear hit him harder than exhaustion. That night, Ethan made a decision. I would rather suffer now than suffer forever. The next morning, he didn't feel motivated. He didn't feel confident, but he acted anyway. That was the day he understood a powerful truth. Motivation comes after action, not before it. Just when Ethan started improving, life tested him again. The company he worked for announced layoffs. His name was on the list. In one moment, everything collapsed. No job, no steady income, only uncertainty. Friends told him to find something safe. His family worried about him. Even he doubted himself. But something inside him had changed. Months earlier, this would have destroyed him. Now he felt something different, calm, because for the first time in his life, he knew he was capable of learning, adapting, and rebuilding. Instead of panicking, he used the time. He studied more, practiced every day, applied what he learned. Days turned into weeks. Rejection emails arrived. Silence followed. But Ethan kept going. One night, an email appeared. A simple message. We reviewed your work. We would like to offer you an opportunity. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was a door, and Ethan walked through it without hesitation. The transformation. That opportunity became experience. Experience became confidence. Confidence became growth. Years passed. The man who once felt invisible was now respected, not because he was special, not because he was lucky, but because he refused to stay ordinary. Ethan no longer chased approval, he chased progress. He built discipline, protected his time, chose discomfort over excuses, and slowly his life reflected his choices. Better work, better mindset, better future. Ethan's story isn't rare. What's rare is the decision he made. Most people wait for motivation, they wait for confidence, they wait for the perfect moment. But that moment never comes. Nothing changes until you change. You don't need to change your whole life today. You just need to change one habit, one decision, one action. Ordinary people stay ordinary because